Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Indiana, the Hoosier state. Yeah, we'll get into what a Hoosier is later. So, Indiana, moving right along from what on earth is a Hoosier, we'll talk about Indiana. So, Indiana received statehood December 11th, 1816, making it the 19th state to join the Union. The capital of Indiana is Indianapolis. Indiana has a population of 6.78 million people, making it the 17th most populous state. Area-wise, it covers 36,418 square miles, meaning it's 94,321 square kilometers, making it the 38th state in size. Now, the largest cities in Indiana are Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Evansville, and South Bend. Those are the four largest. I should probably do 5, but I've been doing 4, so we're going to stick with 4. Let's see. Moving on to history of Indiana. Indiana was originally claimed, the territory that would become Indiana was originally claimed by the French. René Robert Cavalier and Sieur de la Salle was his title, if I understand the French there correctly. He was the first European explorer to enter that area of the world, and the French continued to build up and settle that area. Obviously, there were conflicts with the natives in the region, as there were a lot of those conflicts going back to when the settlers first started showing up in North America. So the British then entered because of the French and Indian War. The natives sided with the French, but the French lost the French and Indian War, and in 1763, all of the French territory east of the Mississippi and north and west of the colony was ceded to the British. So that means that this area that would become Indiana was then turned over to the British. The natives didn't actually stop fighting, so the land was designated. It's kind of interesting. The French lost the French and Indian War, so the war ended, but the natives that were in the area didn't immediately just cease hostilities, and so the British decided, you know what, we're just going to leave that alone. And so they said, okay, you can't go there, to the colonists. They told the colonists, that is Indian territory, leave it alone. And so that was designed to limit the hostilities with the colonists. Then, obviously, we had the American War of Independence, and the territory that was British at that time was then ceded to the colonies. And so the colonies continued to designate that as Indian territory. So, you know, we still had more tensions between the colonists and the Native Americans. The Battle of Fallen Timbers and the Treaty of Greenville, lands were bartered and also stolen from the natives, and tensions continued until there was a chief of the Shawnee tribe. His name was Tecumseh. He created a loose confederacy of native tribes, other Shawnee tribes, to resist the expansion of the colonists into their territory. The U.S. at that point in history, they launched a preemptive strike against the Confederacy, and they won the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. Tecumseh was then killed in the Battle of the Thames in 1813. Armed hostilities then ceased with Tecumseh's death. He was kind of the linchpin there of continuing those hostilities. And so with him gone, the hostilities at that point in that area ceased, and they then started tribal relocation at that point in time. Statehood was then granted to Indiana 3 years later in 1816. It's kind of interesting. Obviously, there's a dark side to just about any history you would care to name, and it seems interesting to me that Indiana, which takes its name from Indian, which is what the Native Americans were referred to at the time, so Indiana is named for the Indians that were relocated from the state. Anyway, continuing on, so the state, obviously, the Civil War then came afterwards. Now the state sided with the Union, and they had an initial quota of 7,500 soldiers that they were supposed to supply to the Union armies. The state provided 126 infantry regiments, 26 batteries of artillery, and 13 regiments of cavalry to the Union. Before the war ended, Indiana had contributed 208,367 men to the Union cause. Now, casualties were 35% among these men. 24,416 lost their lives, and over 50,000 more were wounded during the Civil War. So they made quite a sacrifice during the Civil War. In the post-war era, Indiana remained focused on agriculture, farm machinery, and everything else to do with agriculture. If it had something to do with agriculture, Indiana was into it. The discovery of natural gas, however, shifted the focus of the state's economy. Now, it still had a large portion of the state that was agricultural, but because of that natural gas that was discovered, a lot more manufacturing and the natural gas extraction, everything else to do with that came in. Then, starting in the 1920s, we had the KKK that came in and started causing problems in Indiana. Now, the problems that the KKK caused in Indiana, I don't mean that they were lynching people and burning crosses on lawns, which is things that the KKK did. What I mean is they came in and started taking over like the state governments and city governments and things like that, and then imposing racist policies in Indiana that shifted the power structure of Indiana. However, it didn't last for very long. By the 1930s, there was a change, probably because of the Great Depression and the recovery from the Great Depression. It shifted the sentiment of the state. Basically, the people in the state realized that the Klan was not good, and it became political poison to affiliate with the Klan. And so people who were affiliated with, if they were affiliated with the Klan before, they cut ties, and they started enacting more policies that were less racist, and Indiana started to become part of the civil rights movement that got rid of things like Jim Crow and segregation and things like that. So it's interesting that people in Indiana realized this so early and didn't have the same struggles as maybe some of the other states did. Geography and climate of Indiana. Indiana can be broken into 3 regions as far as geography goes. Climate, we have 2. In the northern, it's humid continental, and in the southern, it's humid subtropical. So the landscape is pretty much flat. There's rolling terrain. It goes from about 600 to 1,000 feet above sea level, so it's 180 to 300 meters. There's so that's kind of the northern area and southern area. They're fairly similar, with higher and hillier terrain up in the north. There's moraines, glacial kettle lakes. You go down into the I should say down. It's actually up. Kind of that northern area. You're on the Great Lakes, which has sand dunes and things, with the shoreline. Inland, St. Lawrence River Divide goes through northern Indiana, and then you have a lot of urban areas in northern Indiana with a lot of farmland. Central Indiana is low, gentle rolling hills, shallow valleys. Some of the counties are more flat, while others kind of have the more hilly terrain. So there is a little bit of overlap there. Forest and farmlands around central Indiana. The highest point in Indiana is Hoosier Hill, which is 1,257 feet, or 383 meters above sea level, and it's in northern Wayne County. Down in southern Indiana, you have farmland, forests and hills, especially around Louisville, and then you have the central Lime Hills stretching from Ohio to Greencastle. Onto the climate, midwinter, the average highs and lows are from 30, highs of 30 degrees Fahrenheit to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, which is -1 to -10. Up in the far north, it can get 41. It actually is a little bit more mild. So it goes from 41 to 24, so 5 degrees Celsius to -4. In the midsummer, there's generally less variation across the state. So the temperatures range from 84 to 64, which is 29 Celsius to 18 Celsius. And then up in the north, it goes from 90 to 69. So not a lot of variation there as far as that goes. The industry in Indiana, we have energy, manufacturing, medical, mining, transportation, and agriculture. The largest coal plant in the U.S. is Gibson Generating Station in Oakdale. They also have the Norway Dams in Benton County. There's a wind farm. So there's a lot of actual energy. Manufacturing is the wrong word for it, but the energy industry is a huge part of the Indiana economy. The Indianapolis Airport had the biggest airport solar farm in the country in 2013. Automotive and steel industries are there in Indiana with Eli Lilly, and Johnson Nutritionals is a branch of Bristol Myers. So that's, speaking to the medical. They have Squibb Limestone and Coal. Norfolk Southern Railway is in the transportation. So Bristol Myers and Squibb, that's in the mining. And then they have Norfolk Southern Railway with CSX Transportation. The biggest producers of mint, soybeans, and corn in the United States are in Indiana, as well as tomatoes and watermelon. They also go into, let's see. So on top of the mint, soybeans, and corn, they also produce tomatoes, watermelon, dairy, hog, sheep, duck, and turkey. So that's in the agriculture area. There are several national parks to visit if you go to Indiana, along with fishing, hiking, camping, all that stuff. You also have spelunking. There's a lot of caves in Indiana to go exploring, horseback riding. all sorts of things that you can do there in the national parks. The Indiana Dunes State Park, Marengo Cave, Brown County State Park, Benjamin Harrison Presidential Residence was in Indiana. In the sports, the Indiana Pacers, which is a basketball team, the Indy 500 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Notre Dame football, which is a famous college team here in the United States. And then we have the Indiana Colts, which is a professional football team. There's also the James Dean, if you're interested in old-time actors, James Dean Museum, which is in Fairmount, Indiana. The Indianapolis Museum of Art in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Hall of Heroes, which is a superhero museum in Elkhart, Indiana. And it was the first and only superhero museum in the world for a very, very long time. Also, Amish country. So if you're interested in learning more about the Amish religious sect, finding more out about them, come to Indiana. There are 20,000 square feet of catacombs underneath Indianapolis. Interestingly, there's that. A Hoosier, there are a lot of theories about what is a Hoosier, but there are so many theories. There's no consensus on what a Hoosier is. So, what can I say? Nobody knows. It turned up one day, and that's what a Hoosier is. The largest ball of paint in the world is in Alexandria. You can actually go there and paint give it another coat of paint. Santa Claus, Indiana, is a holiday theme park. It was the first theme park ever built, apparently. According to Jim Davis, so if you know about Garfield the cat, Garfield the cat is a very famous cat, cartoon cat. Garfield is from Fairmount, Indiana. So that's where he came from. Now, the first train robbery in the U.S. was committed on October 6th, 1866 in Jackson County, Indiana by John and Simeon Reno. They stole $13,000. Now, at the time, that was quite a lot of money. So, let's go into Indiana trivia, my favorite part. So, in the mid-1950s, an Indiana University professor invented the breathalyzer. So if you've ever run afoul of a breathalyzer, you can blame Indiana. Sliced bacon originated in Indiana. Before, it's not like you couldn't get sliced bacon or slice it yourself, but we're talking slicing and prepackaging the bacon. That started in Indiana, apparently. Yeah. With Kingen and Company, they started selling the prepackaged sliced bacon. 90% of the world's popcorn comes from Indiana. Colonel Harlan Sanders, if you've ever heard of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Sanders is not from Kentucky. He's actually from Henryville, Indiana. It is illegal for liquor stores to sell you cold soft drinks or water. They can only sell you booze. And it is illegal for someone with a mustache to kiss a stranger. Apparently that was a thing at one time or another, and they had to make it into a law. Who knew? Anyway, that's it for Indiana. Let me know if you have comments or questions. Again, put them down below. Like, subscribe, put the bell on so you get the notifications. And next time we'll be talking about Iowa. Have a great day.